Krsna. We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, entitled Further Inquiries by Vidura, Text 4. It's April 6, 2024. I'm here with Bhakta Eze and Bhaktin Valerie. And online we have Bhaktin Kim and visitors from Bhakti Oasis there in the Panhandle area. Saraswati, Danielle, George, Hare Krishna. All right. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim sarasvatim yasam tato jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, and to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesh vabhadreshu nityam bhagavata seveya bhagavat yutamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Text 4, Canto 3, Chapter 7, Srimad Bhagavatam. Asrakshit Bhagavan Vishvam Gunamaya Atma Mayaya Taya Samstapayati Etat Bhuya Patyapidasyati Asrakshit Bhagavan Vishvam Gunamayat Mamayaya Taya Samstapayatyetat Bhuya Pratyapidasyati Asrakshit Bhagavan Vishvam Gunamayat Mamayaya Taya Samstapayatyetat Bhuya Pratyapidasyati Asrakshit Bhagavan Vishvam Gunamayat Mamayaya Taya Samstapayatyetat Bhuya Pratyapidasyati
Asrakshit Bhagavan Vishvam
Asrakshit Bhagavan Vishvam
Gunamayat Mamayaya
Gunamayat Mamayaya
Taya Samstapayatyetat
Taya Samstapayatyetat
Vyapratyapidasyati
Bhuya Pratyapidasyati Asrakshit Bhagavan Vishvam Gunamayat Mamayaya Taya Samstapayatyetat Bhuya Pratyapidasyati. Would anyone online like to lead the chanting of the verse? Okay, we'll go to the word meanings. Asrakshit, cause to create. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Vishvam, the universe. Gunamaya, endowed with three modes of material nature. Atma, self. Mayaya, by the potency. Taya, by her. samstapayati,
Samstapayati.
maintains, etat,
Etat.
all these,
All these.
bhuya,
Bhuya.
then again, pachapidasyati,
Pratyabhyasyati.
conversely dissolves also.
Conversely dissolves all.
Translation. By his self-sheltered potency of the three modes of material nature, the Lord has caused the creation of this universe. By her he maintains the creation and conversely dissolves it again and again. Purport by his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This cosmic universe is created by the Lord for those living entities who are carried away by the illusory thought of becoming one with him by imitation. The three modes of material nature are for the further bewilderment of the conditioned souls. The conditioned living entity, bewildered by the illusory energy, considers himself a part of the material creation due to forgetfulness of his spiritual identity. And thus he becomes entangled in material activities life after life. This material world is not for the purpose of the Lord himself, but is for the conditioned souls who wanted to be controllers due to misuse of their God-gifted minute independence. Thus, the conditioned souls are subjected to repeated birth and death. Hare Krishna. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayarupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragana Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatayo Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Guavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text 4. Asrakshi Bhagavan Vishvam Gunamayat Mamayaya Taya Samsta Payatye Tad Bhuya Pratya Pidasyati. By his self-sheltered potency of the three modes of material nature, the Lord has caused the creation of this universe. By her, he maintains the creation and conversely dissolves it again and again. Okay. So this is Vidura speaking, and he's giving some philosophical context for his questions here. Yes, and so speaking about Krishna's Bhagavan, okay, so Bhagavan refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there are many incarnations of God. A key verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, arguably what's called the Emperor verse in all the Vedas, is in the third chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 28th verse. And it says, Ete Chamsakla Pumsa Krishnas tu Bhagavan Svaya. Actually, the whole Bhagavatam and all the Vedas could be, or are meant to be understood in reference to that verse. So that chapter, chapter 3 of Canto 1, describes about 25 incarnations, 25 expansions of Krishna. Soon we have coming up Lord Ramachandra's appearance day, Lord Ramachandra. Next month is Lord Nrsingadev's appearance day. And so there's Varaha Dev and Vamana Dev. Okay, about 25, and there's the Vishnus. So those are incarnations. So then it also describes Krishna. That verse describes Krishna right towards the end of that chapter. But it describes Krishna as differently. It describes Krishna as Bhagavan, which means Krishna is not an incarnation. He's the one who incarnates. So it's a distinction between Krishna and all the other Vishnu forms. Okay. So Krishna is the one who incarnates as Ramachandra, as Lord Krishna, Ete Chamsa Klapumsa, Krishnas tu Bhagavan. Krishna is the source of all incarnations. And with that as the reference point, then everything else, all the threads connect. Okay. And without that, without Krishna and devotion to Krishna as the center, then it can just seem like, well, it says this here, and this, here it says Indra is supreme, what here it says Shiva, and okay, so Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Bhakti is for Krishna. So Prasya Shakti Vividaiva Shriyate. So Sri Krishna, Bhagavan Sri Krishna describes that. So he has many potencies. He has many potencies. So there's the potent and there's the potency. There's the energetic and there's the energy. So there are many types of energy, many types of energy. And generally they're categorized in 3 categories. Internal energy, marginal energy. Internal energy is Antaranga Shakti. Marginal energy, that's Tatastha Shakti. That's where we, the spirit soul, we're marginal energy. Marginal energy can be compared to like the beach. Okay, so sometimes the beach, it's ocean, it's covered by the ocean, but then sometimes it's land. So similarly, so then the third energy is Bahiranga. Bahir means external, Bahiranga Shakti. So the external energy, that's what the material bodies are made of, and everything in the material sphere is made of the material energy. Okay, so Tatastha, yes, Talamala, Jivana Tala. Tatastha means tottering. We can choose to participate in the internal energy, and that's the bliss, that's bhakti, or we can choose to identify with the external energy, like the beach is sometimes land, sometimes it's ocean. Of course, it's not a complete analogy in the sense of the beach is just, sometimes it's covered by the water, sometimes not, but we get to choose. As Tatastha Shakti, we get to choose. And so this external energy, it's described here, well, it's described here in a feminine way. By her, he maintains the creation and conversely dissolves it again and again. So the external energy has many names. There's Kali, Durga. Durga means prison house. Durga means fortress. So that demigoddess, she's like the chief demigoddess. She's the warden of the prison house of the material world. And it's described in the Brahma Samhita. Srishti stiti palaya sadhana shakti reka chayeva yasya bhuvanani viparti durga Ichanupamapi yasya chachishtate sa govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. That Durga, Kali, also known as Sati, Parvati, many names for the external energy, all one demigoddess, that she's serving under the guidance, under the direction of Govinda. Okay, so this is the Vedas. Okay, so this is like everything fits together. And she's serving for the pleasure of Govinda, Govinda Maripurusham, the original person, the pleasure of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. And so, to put it mildly, she's very powerful. She's very powerful. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Devi Esha Gunamai, Mama Maya. So another term for that external energy, female term, Maya. Maya is a term. Devi Esha Gunamai, Mama Maya. So Mama means mine. So he's making clear, she's mine. She's my energy. Mama Maya Dhiratyaya. And Dhiratyaya means like extremely, extremely difficult to conquer or overcome. Basically saying like, you against her, you have no chance. You have no chance. She's more powerful. She's like trillions of times smarter. She's more clever. She knows how to get you and trick you and keep you bewildered. You have no chance. Mama Dharaya, Mama Maya Dhiratyaya. Mame vaye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. At the same time, because she's serving under my direction, Krishna says, one who surrenders to me in bhakti, then they can easily cross over the otherwise insurmountable ocean of Maya. The analogy is given. The analogy is given. It's like the Pacific Ocean. If we're there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, it doesn't matter how good of a swimmer we are, or take it out of the analogy, how much philosophy we've learned, or how austere we can be. We're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. We don't have a chance. At the same time, through giving ourselves to bhakti, giving ourselves to the process of bhakti, then it's like crossing the amount of water in the hoof print of a calf. Okay, just like if it's muddy, it's rained, it's muddy, and a calf is walking here and there, then there's the hoof print, and there's a few drops of water. So to cross over that is like nothing. Okay, so then Krishna says, yeah, take shelter in me. An analogy we use sometimes. Yeah, okay, let's say if a 3-year-old child, a 3-year-old child, and let's say it's a huge major city intersection. Okay, not like Gainesville, let's say 42nd and Broadway in New York City, something like that. And a 3-year-old child, there's just like dozens of lanes, trucks and lights and red, yellow, flashing, which way, go this way, signs. So actually, the child on his own is going to get smashed. It's not a pretty thought. I mean, the child has no chance to. So they're supposed to go on the right side, and the child has no chance. Yet, crossing 42nd and Broadway, the child is very secure and peaceful and safe simply by lifting his hand and holding on to mom's hand or dad's hand. So, okay, and then then the dad knows, okay, this car's gonna stop because the light's red and right now it's a flashing yellow, so we'll wait here. And I mean, the parents have got it. And so the child on the own, but then the child's very safe and secure, maybe in a very playful mood, joyful, crossing that very busy intersection. So simply we hold Srila Prabhupada's hand. We take that lifeline, whatever analogy we want to use, the material energy, simple to cross. And in this whole process, so, okay. So the first line of the purport, this cosmic universe is created by the Lord for those living entities who are carried away. We've gotten carried away by the illusory thought of becoming one with him by imitation. Okay. So this kind of gets to the root disease, the root heart disease. Sometimes people talk about heart disease. So there's physical heart disease, but the heart disease, like, no, I want to do my David Wolf God project. And from that comes envy and jealousy and depression, and disappointment and greed and resentment and deception and illusion. Okay, so that's like get to the heart disease. Sometimes Prabhupada talks about skin disease. There's heart disease and there's skin disease. So skin disease, like if I think I'm this skin, if I think I'm this skin, and you're that body, you're that skin, and you're this Chinese person, and you're this black person, and you're this dog, and you're this, I'm only seeing the skin. So that whole conception, it's another disease of consciousness related to the heart disease. So, okay, by the illusory thought of becoming one with him by imitation. So the common form that takes is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the supreme enjoyer. And we're meant to enjoy secondarily. We're naturally meant to be blissful secondarily. The example given in the material sphere is just like a mother. A mother is happier when her child is fed and eating a nice meal than when she herself takes her meal. Right? So she gets her happiness by the child being happy. So that's the analogy. So we too are secondary. We're meant to be blissful, ever increasingly blissful. Nandamayo Vyasat. And our bliss comes by serving Krishna and Krishna's pure devotee. And then when we said, no, I'm not doing that program, and because we said that, that's why we got the skin disease stuff going on here. And so we say, no, I want to be the center. I want to be the center of enjoyment. And then just, and I'll get all this, I'll get these resources, and I'll get this body with senses to enjoy, and I'll get people to clap for me, and I'll get the profit, adoration, distinction, and enjoy the senses. I'll be the center in some overt, either in some concentrated or extended way. Extended can be a little more subtle, like my family, which is an extension of this body. What makes this family so important? Because this body was born into it. My community, my nation, my species. Well, it's important because this body was born into it. Okay. So that's material consciousness, material life, material activity. And then another form, and this gets a little more subtle, with sort of becoming one with him by imitation, right? So there are approaches to spiritual life, there are different philosophies. where the idea is like, okay, like, no, this is like futile, this whole material thing and try, this whole, yeah, the whole material thing that I'll, material desires, material projects, this is just empty. It's like a dream world. It's like a dream world. It's not, it's all ephemeral. There's no real happiness there. Okay, and then that's true. And you can find realizations about that in so many places. Okay. And then, yes, so let's, the idea of Ishvaraham, Aham Bogi, Siddhaham Balavan Sukhi, I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer. That's like karma. That's called the karmi. If we dovetail a little with certain bhakti, then it becomes karma yoga. And then the other, now is let's renounce from this. Let's renounce. This is all, this is just, this leads to desperation and frustration. So let's renounce from this. And then that can become, yes. So let's go inward. I was recently hearing a session, some supervision, and the client is coming towards the process of bhakti, coming towards chanting the names of God and bhakti, Hare Krishna, Bhagavad Gita. And then the client mentioned some experience with a very qualified therapist. And she described that the therapist, is also like spiritually inclined. He would always encourage her to go inside and realize that you are God, realize that you are God, like that. Okay. And that can sound nice and all. Oh, I am God. Right? Okay. So then, and then the idea there is that, I mean, something good about that. It's a spiritual achievement to truly come to the point of giving up material desires, seeing them as ephemeral and external and superfluous. Okay, so let's detach from that. Right. But then and then I get to be God. Krsna gets into, okay. So if I was God, how did I fall into forgetfulness? That means that there's a power of forgetfulness, Maya, that's greater than God. So then it means God's not God, because God means all powerful. So so there's so many contradictions there, so many. But the idea is like, this is another form of trying to imitate Krishna, because we, in one sense, that impersonalist, what's the Mayavad. So there's something more elevated than just the karmi. I just want to enjoy this and that, and I'll take this substance and enjoy with this one, and I'll enjoy this house, and wow, okay. And then of course, like in advanced course, right, we have one of the survival strategies, maintaining the appearance of control. When in 2002, when Malini and I were conceiving different aspects of the advanced course, we thought a survival strategy, maintaining control. But we thought about it more. No, it's the appearance of control, because always that which we want to control and enjoy, that's always controlling us. That's always, let's say I'll enjoy this substance, smoking this or taking that, say in the field of drugs. Okay, then that caffeine, that alcohol, that's controlling me. It's controlling my whole life. I'll control this person, but then that person's controlling me. Oh, they're not approving of me. Oh no, now I feel that I'm not worthy, I'm not valuable, I'm not lovable. So whatever we want to control, that's controlling us. So then to kind of, to detach from that. So that's elevated. But then the idea is, no, I'll realize that I am God. I'll realize that I got, so that actually I'm the omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, all powerful. It is me who actually is moving the planets and like that. Wow.
I knew it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah. Right. I just forgot for a while. Yes. So in one sense, there's transcendence to those petty material desires. It's nice. But in another sense, what could be a more arrogant desire? That I'm the supreme controller of the whole cosmos. It's me. The only problem till now is you haven't recognized that. Okay. So in one sense, there's spiritual advancement there. And in another sense, you can't get a bigger, grosser desire than that. So they're both true simultaneously. And so our nature is love. Our nature is to voluntarily choose to serve and love. And if it's all one, then there's no service. And then we won't be satisfied. A verse Prabhupada often quotes, and we are creature in a pram padam padam patat yado in a yushmadangra. Says that even if someone does achieve that realization of the undifferentiated oneness, because there's no bhakti there, there's no relationship, then they're going to come back down to the material sphere. Come back down to the material sphere. The example given, we can have an object in space. We can have an object floating in space. We could, but it's temporary. Eventually, due to gravitational pull, it's going to be attracted to some planet or another. So that undifferentiated oneness and merging, it's like that floating in space. It's artificial. It won't last. Now, there are a few examples of those who've achieved that oneness, but because their heart was completely free from envy, they actually went from there to the Vaikuntha plane, like the object in space. It could go to a material planet, it could go to a spiritual planet. So then they went from there to devotional service to Krishna. Examples include the main kirtanir, the main speaker, preacher of Bhagavatam, Shukadev Goswami. He was impersonally realized, and he got attracted to the stories of Bhagavatam. Then he shared Bhagavatam with Maharaj Parikshit. The four Kumaras, they're the head of a whole sampradaya. There are four. Prabhupada translates sampradaya as like party sometimes. Like we're in the Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya. There's the Kumara Sampradaya, there's the Shiva Sampradaya, and there's the Lakshmi Shri Sampradaya. And there are a few others example too. Generally though, but because there's an envy and a resistance to serve the personality of Godhead, then even those who achieve some impersonal liberation coming back down to the material sphere. Okay, and so this whole material universe, this is also Krishna's pastime, and it's a pastime because he's wanting to play with us. He's wanting to play with us in that spontaneous exchange of affection and divine loving relationship. And we're here trying to do our God projects. So he's like, come on, join me in the fields, join me in the dance, join me in our amazingly blissful pastimes of your real nature. So he creates this whole thing. For us to so this is for us to do our illusion, to do our illusory enjoyment. At the same time, it's also for our rehabilitation. So this body, it's a material body. At the same time, we can spiritualize this body. We can spiritualize this body by choosing to use it in bhakti, and the guidelines are there how to do that. It's not a mystery. Choosing to use this mouth in bhakti and the tongue and the legs and the nose, choosing to use it in bhakti, then we spiritualize this body. So we can use it for material purposes, and we can use our power of speech and hearing and working and relating and communicating. We can use it for bhakti purposes, and then we spiritualize this very body. And so the last sentence of the purport, thus the conditioned souls are subjected to repeated birth and death. So I guess what comes to me there is like, yeah, this, like all along the way, it requires that we're very alive with sharp intelligence. Misconception. Oh, you're doing this Krishna consciousness because it's like some sort of escape. This requires all along the way sharp intelligence. Utsanishtha Darya, that's Rupa Goswami just describes qualities, ways of being that are essential to it and helpful to advance on the path of bhakti. The first one is utsahan, which Prabhupada describes as endeavor executed with intelligence. So enthusiasm is not necessarily just like a rah-rah cheerleading kind of mood. It can take that form, but not necessarily. So first, first the intelligence to realize like who we are, who we're not. We're all familiar with basically, the body changes, but there's some constant identity. I wonder what's the nature of that constant identity. There's the finger, but I say my finger. So I'm not the finger. Okay, I speak through this mouth. I peer through these eyes. Who's the one who's peering? Who's the one who's speaking? Okay, so that requires spiritual intelligence. And again, like, the greatest PhDs and this and that philosophers, and they're missing this basic point. The difference between matter and spirit, between body and soul. All right. So what's the nature of spirit that we can see by intelligence? All right. So there's there's some intelligence behind the sophistication, the high level organization of creation, and that's not me. And like I'm something non-material. I can get that. All right. So it requires intelligence, that's power, the capacity to make distinctions, and then intelligence to realize, okay. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Janma Mrityu Jaravyadi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. So Krishna, Prabhupada actually translates it using the word evil. Okay, like the evil, the inherent unnaturalness for this non-material entity to be, it's like embarrassing to be stuck in this body subject to birth, death, old age, disease, like that. And then again, related to this last sentence, thus the conditioned souls are subjected to repeated birth and death. So to have the intelligence, like, let me set that as my goal. I want to get free from the cycle of birth and death. Let me set that as my goal. Otherwise, it's like cats and dogs. Like they don't. We use the example of like using a computer as a doorstop. You're all familiar with that, right? So we have the human intelligence, and if we don't use it to like, I want to get free from the cycle of birth and death. Then it's just like cats and dogs, various forms, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, continued in the samsara dava nala lida loka chunaya karunya ganaganatvam praptasya kalyana gunar navasya vande guru shri charanara vinda. It's described that the spiritual master and his guidance is like a rain cloud that pours water on a forest fire. The forest fire is just burning in the cycle of birth and death, burning in the cycle of birth and death. So this purport, the verse talks about forgetfulness of our spiritual identity. Yeah, so to realize, okay, I'm not the body, and even more subtle, I'm not the mind. Third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right towards the end, Krishna describes Indriyani pranya or Indriya pramana manasas tu para bude yo tusa yo bude paratas tusa. So Krishna says there's the sense objects, then there are the senses, then more subtle, there's the mind, more subtle, there's the intellect, more subtle, that's the spirit soul. And so this is spiritual knowledge. This is spiritual knowledge to make those distinctions, and then to get all right. Because even this, okay, I might say it's in the human form we get to make that our goal, to get out of the cycle of birth and death. And there's so many high level Vaishnava verses where it's really emphasized, like, oh, I don't care whether I'm free from the cycle of birth and death. That can seem like a contradiction. Okay. There's different levels. It's like at the high level, high level of purity, then that devotional spirit soul is, then that devotional spirit soul is just like, I just want to serve my spiritual master. I just want to serve Krishna, and let me be in hell or heaven or earth or Vaikuntha. Just let me serve. We sing each morning, Chakudan Diloye Janme Janme Prabhu say Dibigan Ride Pokashito. And we sing to Srila Prabhupada. Right? You are my Lord, birth after birth. You fill our hearts with transcendental knowledge. Transcendental knowledge. Divya Gyan, that's Divya Gyan. You can say like Divya means divine. You can see the English word Gyan. We can see the English word again, to know, Gyan, tweak, gnosis. You fill our heart with transformational, transcendental knowledge. Prabhupada, actually, this initiation, Srila Prabhupada, he defines Diksha or initiation as Divya Gyan, transcendental knowledge given by the spiritual master into the heart of the sincere disciple, and the sincere disciple qualifies himself to receive Divya Gyan by humble service attitude. So actually in some sectors you could hear Srila Prabhupada is no longer able to give Diksha. Then the question is there, then how come you're singing to him every morning? Srila Prabhupada, you fill our heart with Diksha. Okay. I just have fun with that sometimes. Divya Gan Vide Prokashita, you fill our heart with transcendental knowledge. Okay, so there you go. It's okay, then either you need to accept just Prabhupada's giving Divya Gan, you're singing it every morning, or change your morning program. Okay. So, Lord Chaitanya, right, in one of the 8 verses he wrote called the Shikshastakam, Najanam na sundarim kavitam bhajagadisha kamaye mama janmani Sri Bhavatat Bhakti Rahetuki Tvai. He's praying to Krishna, I have no desire for wealth or for women or for followers. I just want to serve you birth after birth. I just want to serve you birth after birth. So he's feeling so low. He's feeling so low that he's, of course, I'm going to take birth again and again due to all my lusty material desires. Of course, fine, just let me serve you wherever I go. So that's a very high level. And so we can aspire for that. At the same time, at my level, to actually desire to be free of material desires and to get out of the suffering of birth and death. That's pretty good. Rather than in Bhagavad Gita, there's a term Krishna used, kamakami. Sometimes it sounds to me like kamikaze. Okay, kamakami means ones whose desire is to increase material desire. That's material life. Like, here's what I desire, and I'm greedy to increase the desire. Like that. Okay. So if we can come to some realization, I don't want to increase material desire because there's no peace there. Bhukti mukti siddhi kami sakaliya shanta. Any sort of material desire, no possibility. It's the ultimate self-sabotage. And Krishna Bhakti Nishkama Ateva Shanta. When we transform our propensity for desire to please Krishna, then we're peaceful. Then we're peaceful. And so, and then in this whole thing of like, the intelligence, like, let me get out of the cycle of birth and death. And of course, the way to do that is this bhakti yoga. Muktir svayam mukalitanjali sevatesma. The devotee prays that once I came to bhakti, then liberation is waiting at my doorstep, just waiting to serve me. This liberation that the jnanis and the mystic yogis, they're looking for, that liberation into the undifferentiated oneness. Liberation's at the doorstep, just asking the devotee, how can I serve you? So liberation is, the devotee has that realization, that consciousness. Bhakti includes and transcends that impersonal, it includes and transcends the impersonal liberation. And then, and then intelligence, because even this thing of, okay, to realize that there's prayas and shreyas. Prayas is the immediate gratification, and shreyas is longer term good, longer term fulfillment. The examples there, like a child will just want to play and eat sweets all day. But the child's higher intelligence, that's the parents. We gave the Crossing 42nd Broadway example. So, so the parents said, okay, I know you want to eat sweets and play all day, but actually, that'll get you sick, and you really won't be happy in life. So we're gonna go to school a few hours per day, and like that might be a start. So even this thing of it, to make, that's intelligence, to make the distinction. Oh, I'm happy when I do this. Was it me, the spirit soul, is happy? Or is it the tongue, the belly is happy? The false ego is happy? The mind? So what is actual happiness for the driver of the car, not just the car? Not that we want to neglect the car. And that's another place where it's vital for intelligence to be fully in gear. That at each day, each juncture of our life, to have a sense, to have a sense of what's the healthy balance? What's the healthy balance of how tightly to pull the reins, and how much rein? The horses represent the senses, the reins represent the mind. And so if they're just wildly going in the name of, artificial humility, I don't want to pretend I'm more advanced than I am, so I indulge in this and this and that in the name of artificial humility. And then at the same time, there is the genuine meeting myself where I'm at. And about trying to pretend I'm more advanced than I am, pulling the reins too tight, then that's also not a formula for chant and be happy. Because then I'm meditating on sense gratification, because I'm not letting the reins go sufficiently. So the importance of knowing the car, knowing the body, knowing this machine made of material energy, knowing it and taking care of it, keeping it oiled and taking care. Kamasya nendriya pritya labo jiveti yavata. Jivasya takta jigasa labo yas natuyas chaya karma be. Right? So life, the goal, to use our intelligence, that the goal is not sense gratification, the gross or subtle. The goal is self-realization. And self-realization includes what's the activity of the realized self. That's pure devotional service. At the same time, in that verse from Bhagavatam, we're encouraged to be healthy, to keep body and soul together in a healthy way, take care of the car take care of the car while making it our goal to cultivate realization. I'm the driver, I'm not these windshield wipers like that. Hare Krishna. Okay, I'll read the verse again. Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text 4. Asrakshi Bhagavandishvam Gunamayat Mamayaya Tayab Samsta Payat Yetad Bhuya Pratya Pidasyati. By his self-sheltered potency of the three modes of material nature, the Lord has caused the creation of this universe. By her, he maintains the creation and conversely dissolves it again and again. Hare Krishna, thanks for your attention to Transcendental Sound Vibration. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Any questions or comments, sharing realizations? Danielle.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for this class this morning. I got so much out of everything that you were saying. It's so applicable to my personal process and the things that I feel like I'm struggling with. The further I get along on the Bhakti Yoga path, which isn't really that far, I find new layers of challenges are coming up. And one thing that happened this week, yesterday, is we've been taking Saraswati to this little yoga studio where they're doing baby yoga classes, exercise yoga, and that kind of thing. And the teacher approached me and George, we were there both yesterday, to kind of have like a little discussion afterwards because she wanted more information. She's like, oh, you guys do some kind of yoga, Bhakti yoga stuff. Like, what's that about? And she was sharing some of her process. And, she was saying things that, we'd never heard of before. She's like, oh, I chant Jat Guru Dev, every day. I'm like, oh, I've never heard of that before. I don't know that mantra. She's like, you've never heard that mantra? I'm like, I've heard Guru Dave. I'm like, do you have a guru? I'm like, who's your guru? Like, it might be, I'm like, I'm sense sure. Like, God could be seen as like everyone's guru, or maybe Jesus is the world guru. So like, who you're connected to? I'm like, we're connected to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. That's our current link from Brahma down through the disciplic succession. That's our Sampradaya. And she's like, well, I read from, I don't remember what she said, like Yoga Sutras or something. I'm like, oh, I've never heard of that book. She's like, you've never heard of this book? I'm like, well, we read from the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Song of God. It comes from this very special part of the Mahabharata that was given to us, about Arjuna on the battlefield with Krishna, who's actually God speaking. And it was compiled by Srila Vasudeva, who's like the literary incarnation of God. And he gave us the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then there's, the great masterwork of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And, that talks about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came 500 years ago. And we went on like this until her eyes she went into some kind of like panic attack or something, because I think she just thought she was going to say something, and then we were going to be like, oh, wow, that's really just like powerful. And then I was like, so the sutra you're reading, I'm like, what is it? Who wrote it? Where does it come from? What's in it? She's like, well, it's the sutras. And I'm like, yeah, sutra, I know that word. That means thread. I'm like, is it a compilation of stuff? I'm like, where does it come from? Who wrote it? Like, where? And I could just tell I had just like crushed something inside of her. And I felt really, I was alarmed because this wasn't my intention. Like, this isn't where I wanted to go in this conversation. I thought, oh, we're just sharing. Like, you have your process and you're excited about that. And I have my process and I'm excited about that. And I guess I feel like, I don't know, because George afterward, he was like, wow, you were really hard on her. You were really stern with her. And I'm like, when I really checked in, I was like, yeah, part of me is kind of frustrated because she's a teacher. Like, she's saying that she knows what she's talking about. And on some level, I do feel some frustration that maybe she doesn't know what she's talking about. And also, I don't have any sort of ill will towards her. But I mean, like, I didn't go to her class and say, I'm going to teach you yoga, like, she asked me questions, and then I wanted to respond to those questions, and I felt passionate and enthusiastic to share. And so I guess you've had many decades of experience and you've reached out to many people, and I feel like my sense is this must be some kind of Mayavadi philosophy or something that she's going into, because she did mention that someone was teaching her these things. I don't know who that person was. She wasn't clear. And in some sense, it's not about her individually, because I'm sure more people are going to come into my life that want information. So I don't know. I want to be warm. I want to be empathic. And I also don't want any nonsense, right? Like I want to create like a nice, healthy balance. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mm. Yes. Yes. Thanks for your fun sharing, Danielle. Spontaneously creating a feedback arc right there at the baby yoga studio. This is fun stuff. I mean, this is fun stuff. Thanks. thanks thanks for that. No, really, yes. So well, you used the term no nonsense. I mean, there's a letter from Srila Prabhupada to Malati Devi Dasi. She actually, well, when was it? Year 2000, she participated in a foundational course in Mayapur, India. Um, she's like one of the first disciples of Prabhupada. Actually, so I'm planning on give it to Prabhupada something like, yeah, that we want to express ourselves uh, gently and caringly, and we don't tolerate any nonsense. So like it's the essence. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'll send it to you since I can see you haven't it. Yeah. He said it's assertiveness. Yeah. We want to present ourselves caringly, gently, and we don't tolerate any nonsense. So it's the essence of assertiveness in such a wonderful way. I use that a lot. Actually, I'm going to use it on Monday evening because we're doing an assertiveness module in PPTC Part 3. So that's I'm going to quote that from Prabhupada. Let's see, a quote by Marcus Aurelius: be neither the slave nor tyrant of anyone. So the slave is, yeah, I'll just go along with what you say because I need you to like me for my sense of identity. And then the tyrant is, neither am I trying to lord it over you, and I want you to feel less than me. So we're not the slave, we're not the tyrant. Yeah. So I'm sure Prabhupada is pleased that you were there in the yoga studio, and you're not trying to you're not trying to disturb things. At the same time, if it's in the name of yoga and then you're in conversation, well, yeah, you have some things to say. So you're sharing, and then so and then that's definitely Vaishnav, personal awareness, and how can I be more effective in my communication, standing boldly and courageously, and how can I be more effective in being, so that people receive me, yeah. Srila Prabhupada has a letter, December 1972, to one of his disciples. He said, the highest development of your Krishna consciousness is shown to the extent that you're able to communicate these principles in such a way where anyone will respond positively. Meaning you're talking to the yoga teacher, you're talking to university professors, you're talking to a group of 5-year-olds, you're talking to agriculturalists or the construction worker team, or whoever you're speaking to, Christians, whatever. We're so deep in realization that we're super soul inspired to find a way to communicate it so anyone will respond positively. So that's the principle. Maybe this was in my PhD school days. Sometimes in classes I share a bit about that, but I was in a philosophy of science course, and the professor was Dave Smith, and he would share things about epistemology and ways to get knowledge, philosophy and logical empiricism, and descending and ascending process. So I would sometimes raise my hand, and sometimes I would reference Bhagavatam, this and that, and I would just share share what I knew, and share my understanding, and like that. I like he and the whole class. They could say like, this is coming from a different place. It's coming from a different place. And at one point, the students approached him and said, like, can David lead some of the classes? I was a student, but just because they're getting the light of the Bhagavatam, nothing. It's nothing can compare.
Did you lead some of the class?
What's that?
Did you lead some of the class?
I wasn't in front, but he would just like, whenever he would speak, he would like, for the rest of the semester, he would go, David, what do you think? He would like proactively, like, David, what do you think? And then he's basically saying, could you give a Bhagavatam class for 15 minutes? Okay, so that's the way it went. Few points there, Danielle. Okay, with Guru Dev. Well, okay, another point before. So a sutra, probably she's reading some form of the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. She doesn't know that, but even their path, we know more about because of Prabhupada. Like if you read, Srila Prabhupada talks a lot about the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, even in Bhagavad Gita, read his purports, and in other places. And it's not all negative. Like Patanjali, he had his particular mission, just like the Buddha or Shankaracharya. They had their particular mission, and what they gave wasn't complete, and it was even off in some ways. So she's probably reading some form of the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. Okay, Patanjali is one of the great Vedic philosophers, not one of our sampradayas, but Prabhupada references them a lot, sometimes favorably. As far as Guru Dev, okay, so of course Guru Dev is, like Dev is like the divine guru. Okay, Guru Dev and Guru Maharaj. Prabhupada didn't much prefer those terms. It's not that they're intrinsically wrong. And even I think in some of the kirtans pre-77, there was in front of Prabhupada, Jai Guru Dev, Jai Guru Dev. And now you can hear it too. Some sing Jai Guru Dev. So it's not like intrinsically wrong, but for just the reason you shared, Daniel, Srila Prabhupada could detect that when his aspiring students, whether in writing or speaking, when they were doing the Guru Dev Guru Maharaj, there was some impersonal tendency there, kind of like, and I've heard that in Kirt. Okay, like Jai Prabhupada, okay, Jai Guru Dev, and the idea of Guru Dev is now everyone in your heart think of your own Guru Dev. It could be the great Guru Dev in the sky. Okay, and maybe that no, and Prabhupada picked up on that, and it's like, well, here in our kirtans, we're focusing on Srila Prabhupada, and maybe while we're in kirtan, someone could be thinking of Baba Ram Das or this one or that one. Okay, still, at least in this kirtan, our intention is to focus on Prabhupada. In the kirtan, we're not at least overtly opening it up to, now everyone think of the great Guru Dev in the sky, whatever that means for you. Now, someone did like, and maybe that's their thing, but that's not my thing. My thing is Bhakti Yoga in the line of Prabhupada. So Prabhupada, he didn't really prefer the Guru. There's even some letters where because like one of his disciples addressed him as Guru Maharaj. And he says, Guru Maharaj, it has an impersonal flavor. It's not intrinsically wrong, but it has he's like, your Guru Maharaj has a particular name, Srila Prabhupada or A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, and the Guru Maharaj in the sky. So thanks for your sharing.
Hare Krishna, Dhira. I just wanted to add on to that. I have two questions that were, because I know you mentioned Sampradaya means party.
Yeah.
And in our party that or in the Sampradaya, the party that we follow, it's the Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could speak to the Madhava.
Sure.
And then I have another question about something else, but yeah, let's go with that.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I often use Sampradaya, Parampara, and disciplic succession more or less synonymously. But they do have subtle different meanings, and sometimes Prabhupada uses them synonymously too. But parampara means like one after the next, the chain, the line. Sampradaya actually means a party. Prabhupada will give the mundane example, like, you have your Republican and Democrat parties. And if they're bona fide parties, ideally, okay, they might have some differences, but they're all combined to serve the United States. So in the different parties, the Vishnu Swami party, the Vallabhacharya, it's all serving Krishna, all serving, and there might be some transcendental differences in the flavor like that. But then there's the Apasampradaya. Apasampradaya is something where no, this is not, but this is deviant. It might in the name of bhakti, and then Prabhupada cautioned that he describes at least 13 types of sahajya apasampradayas, where these are deviant sampradayas, and maybe they're in some obscure villages in South India, or maybe they're down the block in Alachua, or okay. So Prabhupada didn't just give it for some obscure reference. No, even in San Francisco in '67, the devotees were running into Apasampradaya, so-called bhakti, and there's lots of funny stories, and Srila Prabhupada would point it out. Sometimes they had an intuition about it, but we Prabhupada, that's our transcendental intelligence, right? Their super soul provides transcendental intelligence. Srila Prabhupada, his books, his instructions, that's the external representation of super soul. So Brahma, so we know Teni Brahma Vidyadi Kavye. So Krishna, through his flute, gave all the Vedas to Brahma, and he's the leader of our sampradaya. He's the leader of our party. Okay, then Brahma to Narada, and this is all there. This is all there in Bhagavatam. Narada to Vyasadeva, the compiler of Vedas. So we have quite a distinguished sampradaya. Narada. Then there's Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya. And he came maybe about 1,500 years ago, something like that. So he's like thousands of years after Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva existed then, 1,500. And Vyasadeva still exists now in Badarik Ashram. Okay, not necessarily that we can just, hey, let's go knock on his door, see how he's doing. Okay, Chris, we'll find Vyasadeva if he chooses to reveal himself to us. So Madhvacharya was an amazing scholar. He wrote extensively. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada has one particular like multi-page purport all about Madhvacharya. And so Madhvacharya was this brilliant, empowered philosopher to defeat the Mayavadis and establish. Madhvacharya is the one acharya in our sampradaya that I'm aware of that apart from his devotion and his scholarship, he's known for physical strength. Okay, physical strength. There's one story. There was like this great, like the top wrestler in all of India. So he came around to Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya put his toe in the ground, put his toe in the sand. He said, "Move my toe." The wrestler could not move his toe and had to admit defeat. Lots of stories about Madhvacharya. It's all in Prabhupada's books. There was a huge deity, a bona fide deity, washed up on the shore from the ocean. 50 men could not carry it. Madhvacharya says, "I got this." He carried it on his own. Lots of stories like that. Madhvacharya, if you see pictures of him, and there are pictures of him in Prabhupada's books, different volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita, you see pictures of him, and Madhvacharya, he's in Vaishnav Tilak, he's built, and he's like this. He's like this. So he's declaring peace. No, this means war. This means war. And that's his symbol. It means two. Because he's he's taking a stand against the radical non-dualism, Advaitavad. He's taking a stand. No, it's not all one. There's two. There's the Jiva and there's Krishna. So this is not peace. He's declaring war on the Mayavadi. So then Madhvacharya, yeah, so then there's details about him in purports in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'll send references if you don't hear from me, write me an email. But Prabhupada writes extensively about him. So he established quite a movement, and he had many disciples. Then, so there's Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master is pop quiz. Anyone know who's Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master? Ishvara Puri. Ishvara Puri's spiritual master is Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri is described. There's a whole chapter about Madhavendra Puri in the fourth chapter of the Majji Leela Chaitanya Charitamrita. Beautiful, beautiful pastimes, amazing. Basically, between Madhvacharya and Madhavendra Puri, there's about 10, 11 acharyas who we really know nothing about other than they're on the list. Okay, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they could be recent, but what I'm saying is, Srila Prabhupada doesn't give information. We have about a 10 or 11 between Madhvacharya, who we get a lot from Srila Prabhupada, and Madhavendra Puri is Lakshmi Pati Tirtha. We hear a little bit about him. In between there's about 10 generations of acharyas. All we know is their names on the list, and they're pure devotees of Krishna. So that's Madhvacharya. That's a synopsis.
Thank you so much. That's very helpful. Yeah, I'm also feeling inspired from your sharing to read Chaitanya Charitamrita, to like get started with that, because I know Anasuya is reading it with us in the mornings during her sharings. But thank you so much. I also wanted to ask, you mentioned in your class that I think you said it was Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 28. That was the core verse of Bhagavatam.
Yeah, and since the Bhagavatam is the core literature of all the Vedas, it's the core verse of all the Vedas. Yeah, 1:3:28. Ete chamsakla pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swam. I remember this past August or September on Janmashtami. That's the verse I chose to read from. Srila Prabhupada quotes it extensively. Yes, right. The chapter is entitled "Krishna is the source of all incarnations," and that because it's the key verse. It could be called the emperor verse, and all of the kings are subordinate. And so, like, because you can see so many things in the Karma Yoga again, it says this about this and that, and it's all meant to be understood in the context of Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Yes.
And also, so that is the emperor verse.
Yeah.
But then, just like in Bhagavad Gita, there are four principal verses. What chapter and canto are the 4 ones for Bhagavatam?
Okay. The seed verses for Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 2, Chapter 9, text 33 to 36. That's the seed verses. And text, and text 31 and 32, it's Krishna speaking to Brahma, and 31 and 32, they're sort of Krishna's preface to the 4 seed verses. So you sort of have 6 verses, but 33 to 36 are the seed verses. 31 and 32 are kind of a preliminary preparation for those seed verses. Yeah.
Okay, this is very helpful information. So 1, 3, 28, 2, 9, 30 to 36.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love questions like that. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Bhagavad Gita, seed verses, chapter 10, text 8 to 11. Yeah. You might say the conclusive verse is 1866. Sarvadaman Parityagya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Am Tvam Sarvapapibhyo Mokshaya Shami Mashucha, where Krishna says, abandon all yoga, abandon, abandon all dharma, abandon everything in the name of religion. Just surrender unto me. I'll deliver you from all material karma. I'll deliver you from all sinful reactions. Tvam sarvapapibhyo mokshaya shamim. And then he said, don't worry, be peaceful, be joyful, surrender to me. I'll deliver you from all the entanglement. Chaitanya Charitamrita, the seed verses are essentially the first 14 verses of the first chapter of Adi. Any other comments or questions? Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.